Hello, everybody. It's John from Digital Stride. Today, we are going to be going over the blueprints to browsers, how websites build trust. Today is going to be useful for anybody, but really, we're kind of focusing more on the AEC industry, so architects, engineers, construction companies. But as I said, this could be relevant for anybody that is looking for a new website or wanting to understand how to ultimately gain trust to their customers. All right, so quick agenda for today's lunch and learn. We are going to be covering why your website matters, trust building essentials, turning those visitors that come to your website into leads, then measuring that performance, and then of course action steps on what you can do to ultimately improve your website. Quick little bit about us. So we are a Digital Stride. We are a data-driven digital marketing agency. We specialize in Google advertising, website design and creation, SEO, and much, much more. We do everything from CRM creation, setup, and integrations for HubSpot, Salesforce, as well as creating custom solutions as well. So we always say that we are the nerds of the marketing realm. So if you need something done that is more technical, but marketing related, we are your go-to source for that. All right. So why your website matters. If you are a AEC company, or any company in general, websites or any more are your first impression. People no longer go just to a physical store to find a place to go to. I mean, we look online. We start searching on Google. We find websites. We shop around that way. So making that first impression count goes a long way in understanding how we can ultimately capture these customers. It's also a key place to drive credibility and trust, especially in industries like this with the AEC industry, where the initial conversation may be in person. You may be networking, meeting people, just word of mouth. That's how the initial lead comes in, but they may do additional research on your company. So having that foundation and that strong presence online will ultimately help reinforce that trust and give you additional credibility. It is also 24/7 up and running, unlike salespeople or just humans in general. The website is always online. So it's always something that people can access. So even if it's 2 a.m., they wake up, think about it, they want to go to the website, check it out, they certainly can. Versus a salesperson, obviously, you could get text messages at 2 a.m., but that is not ideal for anybody in the situation. It is also a very good way of generating additional leads and providing that additional information needed that ultimately lead to sales. So it can be another way that, once again, it's always on, something that people can capture the leads through. So if they are interested in your services or products, they can just immediately go to instead of having to reach out to a person. One of the real benefits of a website too is that you can speak to your individualized customer. So in this example here, this is Henderson Engineers. And they really show about they have expertise in services here. And then below that, you can see that there is down here, there is this little like select. So you can actually go in and select the services that you're maybe interested in or the expertise that you're looking for. It's another way that instead of you having to have somebody that's always communicating what your values are, what your benefits are, the website can kind of take that away from that person and help them automate that, and just it's one less thing they have to worry about. So in this case here, I mean, you may be able to drop down, see the expertise that they can build exactly what the person is looking for, which will ultimately lead to them being more likely to become a lead and ultimately sales for you. A website is also a perfect opportunity to show off your work. This is a key one, especially in this industry. People want to see what you've done before. They want to see the projects that you've worked on. So this is a fantastic place to put all of those work projects you've done. Give a little brief description of what they are, what the project is that you did, and then also show some photos. I mean, a lot of times, especially when you're building a cool building or working on a really neat project, that's the perfect opportunity and perfect content for a website that also boosts your SEO ranking. So it gets you ranked higher on Google, but also is good for the user as well. So people that are coming to your website will benefit from seeing that information, as well as, once again, it'll help you rank on Google, which leads to more leads and sales ultimately as well. Those organic leads are always a good thing. Another key area that you want to look at for providing trust and trying to gain that credibility that's needed for people to ultimately invest large sums of money into your organization is going to be testimonials. If you have testimonials, leverage them everywhere you can. Put them on your website, add reviews throughout the website of people giving those 5-star reviews and why they worked with you. If you don't have reviews currently on your website, or you don't have them in general, this is a key area that you should be working on, something that you should be working to improve upon, and ultimately getting more and more reviews for your company. Even simple projects, I mean, if you end up being a construction company, you have to do a very minor repair, still get a review for it. Still kind of builds that trust, builds that responsibility that you are a person that will ultimately help out other people and do the job well. It doesn't have to always be the biggest jobs, because obviously those don't come along as often, or they're just not as review heavy, or they have a stronger relationship. So make sure you're always asking for those reviews, getting that feedback, so that way you can continue to build trust and move forward. Other areas of trust building essentials here, it's always going to be these 5 key topics here. So having that clear messaging and branding, having that consistency of a brand throughout the entire website is going to be very important. Mobile friendliness is another very important aspect. So is your website usable online on a mobile device? Is it fast on a mobile device, or is it something that's going to be like very hard to use? If it's something that's hard to use, especially on mobile, it's not going to be the best experience. It may not deter people necessarily in this industry, but it will kind of cause an additional frustration. The faster they can get to the information that they need and want, ultimately, the better experience, the better relationship that you could potentially have with this clientele. Another key area is that fast loading speed and SEO friendliness. So, a website that is fast and also SEO friendly will ultimately rank higher on Google, which, from a user standpoint, the fast loading is great. I mean, that's something that you want. People definitely will drop off. I mean, every 1 second additional time that people have to wait for a website to load just significantly increases the chance that they're just going to leave the site and not come back. But on the SEO side, those organic leads are something that can really benefit your company and really kind of grow that organic presence online, especially anymore. I mean, we're competing against many different industries, many different companies that all could be competing or bidding on the same projects. So having that organic ranking will ultimately help differentiate you from their competitors. If you're that number one Google rank versus the number 10, I mean, you see a drastic difference in click-through rates, the number of clicks you're going to get. I mean, it's over 60% difference in those two metrics. So make sure that if you are competing online, you have a decent website, make sure it is SEO friendly as well. People will significantly put more trust in those first few rankings versus somebody on the second page or beyond. Next one is secure HTTPS, and being reliable in that sense. So security is always going to be a big part. HTTPS is just the secure domain. So you always want to make sure that your domain is secure, of course. But I mean, really, you want to be working towards that if you don't. It should be a fairly simple fix. If your person that hosts your website does not have that set up for you properly, make sure you reach out and get that set up. It should be a pretty quick fix for them, but it's something that if your site is not secure, it definitely decreases trust significantly. It is kind of the standard at this point that you must have an HTTPS website. Good rankings equal credibility. Going back to the SEO side, the higher you rank in Google and other search engines, the more likely you are to ultimately rank higher. So you are ultimately going to be going from a low ranking that has a lower level of trust to a higher ranking, which has a high level of trust. So if you hit that number one spot, I mean, you're going to have significantly more clout, significantly more credibility from the people that are searching versus some of the maybe even the top 10. And especially when you get down to the bottom pages, if you hit that page two, it's going to be even less credibility that you're going to have from that company. I'm sorry, from that, yeah, that company or that person. So you ultimately, the higher the ranking, the better off your company is going to be for generating leads, as well as just reinforcing that credibility for people that you may have already met. All right. Now you have people coming to the website. You have a decent website. You solved kind of those basic problems there. So how do you turn those visitors into leads? The big one, strong CTAs on every page. So if you're not familiar with a CTA, it is a call to action. This is just a request of some sort. Big thing for this one is that having something that's enticing for each page, but also being consistent. You don't want to keep asking people for multiple different things on different pages. So you don't want to be on one page asking for three different call to actions, asking them to fill out this form, to sign up, download this document, and then sign up for this other email newsletter. Try to be consistent, try to be all focused on one area. You can try different verbiage, but try to get them to the same pipeline to ultimately understand what it's going to be the conversion for that person. So in this case here, I mean, you really can an A/B test them. So by you having that singular call to action, you can then understand that this is a call to action that's appealing to these people, or at least at this time it's appealing or not appealing. And then you can always make changes and adapt to ultimately increase your conversion rates and provide more value to your future customers. Contact forms, this is a big one. Trying to keep them as simple and visible as possible. We have another slide here up next that will talk about the fields on there and how that even plays an effect on how much people will convert on a website based on the number of contact forms. But keeping it clean, keeping it simple, that kind of goes along the lines for all websites. A clean, simple look and design will go a long way with understanding or helping your customers understand what you do and portraying that information. Ultimately, too, content that answers buyers' questions. So always put yourself in the buyer's seat. Make content and make the website that is designed around them. So create things that answer their questions. So you know that the average question that you get is, how do I, how do we do this? How do we, build this three-story building? What is the specs we need? And that's what they're coming to you for, then that should be on your website. If that is your number one question, answer that question there and then have them generate a lead through that process. So provide answers, provide content that is relevant to your audience that also is reinforcing that trust. Ultimately, just like all marketing, really, we're always just trying to reinforce that trust and just trying to stand out from everyone else and show that we are the people that you should trust because we do this. This is why we're good at what we do. So conversion rates, I said about decreasing for additional fields. So this is interesting charts here. Let me bring us back up and get rid of me here. So these are some interesting charts. This is from Dan Zarella at HubSpot that they did research on the number of form fields. There is a slight decrease with conversions. So the more form fields you have in general, the more or less likely someone will be to complete that form. So if you have a three field form, so someone is filling out like their name, email, phone number, that's going to be converting higher than say a 15 field form versus even a one field form. So they did see a correlation there that the number of fields matter, but it's not as significant as we once thought. People are being more willing to fill out forms than they were previously. The ones that were interesting were these select boxes and text areas. So as you can see here, I mean, having one of them, not a big deal, but each subsequent, I can't say that word, subsequent field ultimately decreases the conversion rates. So the conversion rate, especially in the select boxes, you can see it starts off at 16% conversion rate, but as soon as we add an additional one, we drop down a good percentage point, and then it just continues to drop down till it levels off at about 5. So adding those select box fields will ultimately decrease your conversion rate. Same with the text areas. I mean, you can see that one actually drops off even more significantly. So it goes from that 20 down to nearly 10% by the third one. So having those large text box, things that are just complicated for people to do, requires additional thought that you may actually already have known about them, or you'll just get through your discovery call anyway. I would definitely try cutting those out from your forms as well. Ultimately, if they're early in the funnel, they're really trying to just understand what you do. Maybe just kind of see if you're even a good fit for them, like relationship wise, personality wise. So ultimately, cutting out some of those fields may benefit you from the conversion rate standpoint as well. All right, so what do you do now? So you must measure some of these performance metrics. So ultimately, now that once again we're trying to build that trust, we have people on the website. Like, what are the things that we're looking at? What are the conversion rates? What are the data that actually matters for your website? So tracking website traffic is going to be very important. Using tools like Google Analytics or some other type of analytics program. There's a bunch of them out there. Google Analytics, though, is probably the most common, and also it's completely free. So I would highly suggest using that at the very bare minimum to understand your website traffic. So ultimately, you're looking at volume of people, especially in the organic side. If you're just worrying about website, if you're running paid advertising, you'll of course want to track that as well, which we can show you here in the next slide. Ultimately, then too, we want to monitor engagement rates because the number of people that are engaging on your website are ultimately the ones that could potentially turn into leads later or during that same session that they're on the website. Same with time on page. So the amount of time they spend on your website could ultimately be a signal as to whether or not being being considered for a purchase or being considered in this lead creation. So I think that is another area that's important, but don't get too hung up on time of page because there is kind of a delicate balance there as well. Ultimately, then too, you want to measure form fills and conversions. Of course, you want to understand, who is converting, why are they converting, how can we ultimately, turn them into customers later, and making sure that that's actually measured, the number of form fills you're getting and the conversions you're getting, and where is that going? Is that being integrated through CRM? Is it integrated properly into uh, your Outlook or your Gmail? Like, how is that being captured and then being converted into an actual sale? Then also review your keywords rankings regularly. So if you aren't too concerned with SEO, that's okay. I mean, you still ultimately want to boost your SEO ranking. So just doing a quick little search, if you have a company that you work with that does your SEO, or if they do your paid advertising, they can probably pull that report pretty quickly. If not, send us an email. We'll gladly help you out. That's a 5-10 minute job for us in the SEO world. So we can definitely quickly pull that for you if you have any questions. We love looking at those website audits. All right, so engagement rate. So kind of going back to that, the engagement rate, the stats here, what we're looking at is some people may be familiar with bounce rate, which was the number of people that would leave the website once they came to your website. This is just the opposite. So instead of people now looking at it from a bounce rate, like how many people are leaving the site, now we're looking at it from the perspective of, what are the people that are actually staying in and doing something. So this column here, this engagement rate, is going to be where we're looking for higher numbers. So like the paid search, organic search, in theory you want to be in the 60s. It's not going to be perfect. I mean, just like all of these things, it's always going to be ups and downs. There's never going to be that straight line of always being 60. You may be here with hovering at that 59 area or 58. That is perfectly okay, but the higher the better. But always kind of uh, use some type of logic there, because if you have a down here you have organic social, we have 3 sessions at 100% engagement rate. That doesn't mean that's the best source just because it has a 100% engagement rate. Obviously that's 3 clicks, 3 sessions that were on the website versus 300 engaged sessions and 600 total sessions up here in the paid search. So it's definitely just a different way of looking at it, and a different way of understanding, that there's a volume up top that ultimately is going to lead to lesser engagement rate, just because people are going to misclick or just leave immediately because of different situations that they're in. Maybe they have to leave immediately as soon as they come to the site. So there's definitely other areas that could affect this as well. But this engagement rate is a good top of funnel understanding of why are people staying or not staying, like what are the root cause here, like what can you say is this the issue, because if you can solve this engagement rate, ultimately you can get down to these key events, which are going to be your leads and sales down here in this far right column. The engagement time is another key factor. So looking at how long someone stays on the site, so how long are they actively doing something. This isn't, again, once a perfect metric, but it's a good metric to understand and at least have some concept of, because the longer people engage on the site, the more likely they are to ultimately complete a conversion. They'll fill out the form, ultimately purchase. So I think that there's a benefit here to having higher numbers. But I will say, I mean, sometimes, and especially on Google Analytics, it doesn't always track if people are just kind of reading. So if you have a fair amount of text on your website, they may not track all that engagement that people are reading during that time. Or if they're just kind of stagnantly on the site as well, or just not doing as much, it may not count towards this engagement time per session. Also, the other kind of negative to this metric as a whole, is that you want to get it to a certain point. Like here, the ideal number is going to be that around that 1 minute or more. And that's usually enough time that people can actually like digest the information on the website and then create a decision on their mind whether or not they're going to convert or not, or maybe they'll just come back to it later. So that there's enough time there for someone to make a decision, or at least briefly. Whereas once you start getting above that, so like here we have the minute 14, which is definitely good, but say that was like 5 minutes, that is probably not ideal, and it may just be a source of frustration. I mean, in theory, you want to be able to provide value, and be able to provide value quickly to people. I mean, we're all busy, especially in the B2B realm. We want people that can ultimately, you know, understand our problems and solve them. So having a high engagement time could also be a downfall as well. Similar, we see this a lot on e-commerce as well. So like you want to be able to make a purchase quickly. So if you go onto Amazon and you already know what you're looking for, having a low engagement time may not be a bad thing, because it means that it was easy for you to actually find the information you need to make the final conversion you wanted. So if you know you need somebody to excavate your this building, the parking lot. You need someone to destroy that, build it out. You may just come there and you already know that, hey, I want to work with this company. If they spend more time than they need to on the site, it could mean that they just had frustration. They got stuck on something. They couldn't actually complete the task they wanted to. Whereas if they had a lower engagement time, that means that they were able to complete exactly what they wanted to in a very efficient time. So, once again, engagement time, ideally 1 minute plus, especially for those pages that are providing additional content information. But really, this I wouldn't get too hung up on this key metric here. All right, so key takeaways from today. Ultimately, having a strong website that's well designed and provides your users with information that is valuable is ultimately going to lead to trust, which will ultimately lead to additional leads and conversion and sales. The more trust and leads you can generate throughout the process, ultimately, the better off your company will be. So you always want to be kind of working towards that growth possibility of having a strong website that has a good foundation that essentially goes to bat for you all the time. Design and performance do both matter. So it is something that you can't just skimp on design or skimp on performance. You want to have a little bit of both at the very least. So you want something that looks nice, but ultimately does perform quickly. So something that is fast, but also looks good. The only kind of flip side to that is you do want it to function as well. So you do have to have form and function also. So you want the site to be easy to use, easy to understand, and ultimately be able to convert very quickly. This one too, I love this. Small improvements lead to big gains. This is a big one. Always just keep trying. I mean, much like most things in life, just taking a little attempt out there, try something, see what happens, make small changes to your website, see if that'll ultimately help with conversion rates. Just constant improvement. And especially in the digital marketing realm, that's always what we're looking for is just this cyclical improvement cycle. It's a lot of unknown, a lot of information that we're trying to digest. So just take small improvements always and just try to see what you can get out of them. And over time, they will compound to ultimately grow your business and grow your website traffic and conversions. Lastly, sort of focus on that mobile side. Mobile devices are a large percentage of what users view websites with, especially initially. So even in the B2B realm, a lot of times they will look at a mobile device, use their phone just to look up the website real quick, take a quick glance. They may not fill out the form then, but they're at least building that credibility, that trust with you through that mobile device, and then ultimately maybe convert later with using their laptop or computer at a different time. But that mobile device will still make up a fair amount of the traffic to your website. All right, so that really wraps up our presentation for today. I appreciate taking the time to talk about websites, especially in the AEC industry. Um, if you have any questions, I would gladly answer them. You can feel free to email me your questions at john@mydigitalstride.com, or you can always schedule a quick 15-minute call with me using the QR code here on the screen. There's also a link in the video as well that you can go to that will promote your or provide you with the scheduling link as well. So you can schedule a quick 15-minute phone call. We can definitely answer any of your questions that you may have as well. Lastly, we do have more lunch and learns. We do these on the regular. So if you are in the York, PA area, we do lunch and learns in person very regularly, as well as doing these online webinars, which is going to be more frequent here in 2025 and 2025 and 2026. So we will provide these free of charge. So if you are in the area and you're on October 16th, we are having a web in-person lunch and learn here at our office talking about Facebook ads. and how business growth can ultimately be grown through Facebook ads, not necessarily maybe boosting. And we'll kind of weigh those two different options. All right. Well, thank you again. I hope you have found some of this information valuable. If you have any questions, once again, reach out, gladly answer them. I love helping out other entrepreneurs learn about marketing and understanding how digital marketing can ultimately grow their business. That's why I always love to see them grow and continue to expand. So, once again, any questions, please reach out. It's John at mydigitalstride.com. Otherwise, thank you again for watching, and I hope you found this valuable.